If you go out in the street, everybody could see you. That's where everything can see you. I took great pride in my newspaper delivery. I watched Ken River Vlogger's video. He talked about an article that was, I believe, posted on pbs.org about paper routes. A small town that was encouraging paper routes for children rather than adults. And Ken talked about his paper route growing up. And naturally, while I was listening, I was thinking about my first paper route job. One of my first jobs I ever had. My father had greatly encouraged me. I had talked about wanting to have a paper route. And he was all for it. He had even, I remember, I didn't know what brass knuckles were. And that should date my father, knowing that he was born in 1925. So I think brass knuckles is an era type self-defense item. I guess, for a while that would be like an added piece of like self-defense. I remember my mom frowning against the idea of trying to get me brass knuckles, and got the paper out, and my father helped me plan the best route to do it, the best way to do it. It's been one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my life as far as learning how to work. Working in all conditions and having a job where you couldn't really, there was a rare occasion that I would be sick and wouldn't be able to do it, and my father would step in and do it for me. It was a good size route. I had about 200 papers. I think on Wednesdays there would be certain advertisements and inserts, and it was my job at that time. I would get the stacks of papers and I would have to put the inserts in. The newspaper would just deliver the stack of papers. Rubber bands, carrying bag, the newspapers. If it rained, plastic bags. I would be charged for each of those items, and then I would in turn have to pay the newspaper back. It was my responsibility to make sure each paper was delivered, or I would have to pay for that paper. Every paper was porched. My father taught me that. Monthly, I would have to go collect. I would actually have to go to the door of each house and say, "Hi, I'm your paper boy. I'm here to collect for this month's paper." I had a lot of good conversations with people. It was mainly the elderly people that would invite you in. I do remember this one time I was towards the end of my paper route, and it was a Sunday paper, so it was a very large paper with a comic insert. And an older man came out to meet me for the paper rather than me porch it. And when I handed him the paper, he started crying and said that his wife had just died the day before. I remember saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was just a kid. But I could recognize that it was something serious and something to be sorry for. And I remember him apologizing too for crying and stuff. But it reminds me of how just recently, when my father passed away, so you just sometimes you can't help. I mean, is it really appropriate to tell your paper boy that your wife had just passed away? But I was like at the doctor's office, and the doctor said, "Are your parents both alive?" "Oh, my dad just died," Sometimes, you don't think about how to respond, and you just respond off the top of your head. And maybe he was so used to going to get the paper for his wife, or maybe his wife used to get the paper, that, I totally do that. I would reach out to anybody. If I lost Mrs. Silly somehow, I would just be like, "I lost my wife." It's very sad. Very sad indeed. I took great pride in my newspaper delivery. my father took great pride in teaching me how to, he wanted me to stay close to the, I have vlogged about this before, but he wanted me to stay close to the houses when I walk, like in the shadows, on the sidewalk. I always wanted to walk down the middle of the street. Let me tell you, I could porch a newspaper from the middle of the street. On rare occasions, I could hit a terracotta pot and break it, or the wind would catch it and it would end up on an overhang that I would fish it off of and get it back. Or, if I did break a terracotta pot, I would leave a note or come back later on in the day and talk to the homeowner. But yeah, it was good. I was a good paper boy, let me tell you. And I saw Ken folded the paper, see if he could still do it. I remember exactly how I'd fold those papers. I can remember how I'd fold them. I would either stay, if it was a very cold morning and I just wanted to get the paper route done quick, sometimes I would just sit by the heater in the house and fold the papers. And I have all the papers rolled up and I'd stuff them into my carry bag. But a lot of times when the papers are folded, you can't get them all in the bag. So then you'd have to either make 2 trips or it would just kind of be a pain. I never rode a bicycle or skateboard or anything to speed up the process. I always walked it and made sure I got it there. But I would also, on light days, I would just put the stack of papers in my bag, just flat, and I would roll while I went along. So I remember the rubber band on, toss. It's just very systematic. Very systematic. Good times. So yeah, my father, he bought me a mag light instead of brass knuckles. A great, big, nice, back then I think only police officers had mag lights. So it was kind of fun to have it. Sure, it added weight, but it helped. I had some very dark neighborhoods to go in with no street lighting. But again, I liked to stay in the middle of the street. I did not like to go into the dark areas like my father wanted me to. If you go out in the street, everybody can see you. That's where everything can see you. And I would think, yeah, if I go out there in the shadows, that's where everything that wants to see me is hiding. Oh, Pop would join me on some mornings. He was a morning person. You could hear the mockingbirds singing, the morning birds singing, the wind chimes chiming, the occasional dogs barking. Before people were waking up. Sometimes you could smell coffee if someone was making fresh coffee through their windows, wafting through the neighborhoods, or cooking bacon. I remember beautiful foggy mornings where everything was just blanketed in fog, and it was like you were walking through the clouds to deliver papers. I would get home in time to go back to sleep. I would wash my blackened hands, my ink blackened hands. I'd wash them, scrub them, and I would climb back into bed, and I could get at least another hour's worth of sleep. I preferred to get up extra early as soon as I'd get the papers and get the route done and go back to sleep than waiting to the last minute. And if something were to happen, if I were short in an amount of papers, or if I had to spend extra time to, I don't know, get another paper because I was short, or that I'd have the time to do that. The bike thing, riding your bike in a paper route, or the skateboard, or having my father greatly discouraged that. He believed that paper routes, you should walk it, you should deliver it, you should make sure it gets on the porch. should make sure it gets on the porch. And I would think, yeah, if I go out there in the shadows, that's where everything that wants to see me is hiding.